Happy Thursday. Good morning, PASW staff, clients, friends joining us. I mean, mostly through the week, piece of cake, pretty much. I mean, I think it's easy for me to say. I don't know what's going on with you guys. I mean, I think we're still hanging in there. Tomorrow we see film scoring results for Beetlejuice. We don't want to say it 3 times because if you say it 3 times, you go into his world. So we'll just say it once. Yesterday we looked at Monk. I mean, very sad that maybe, he might have been autistic, bipolar, schizophrenic, and maybe he was misdiagnosed. So hopefully, but he left some great music for us. So what a showman, what a great genius he was. People still, so mention him at a party, people will be very impressed that Thelonious Monk, and not the loneliest monk. That guy doesn't exist. Today we're going to look at somebody, again, who I feel so inadequate, It's like when you think about these guys, you're like, wow, these guys have so much talent. This guy's nearly blind. So we're going to talk about him. By age 4, he lost most of his sight in his left eye. So like Ray Charles, because of cataracts. Just have a ball listening to how much fun this guy is. We're going to look at the great Art Tatum. Tatum was nearly blind, actually, had artistic vision and ability to just extend the piano. We're going to talk about another pianist, and we'll talk about his life and look at other piano players that we've looked at and try to figure out what makes him stand out and how he influenced a lot of piano. This is early stride piano. Stride is kind of, where the left hand does most of the chords and the root notes, and then the right hand is just, think of, your brain is working your hands are doing 2 different things. So confusing. Okay, so let's, we'll go from Hollywood to Ohio, Toledo. This is where he's born, 1909, okay? So most of the stuff is going to be, he dies in 1956. 47, another kind of tragic early life. So most of this piano playing we're going to be hearing is 40s, early 50s. That's a long time ago. He's going to influence a lot of players. I mean, we can, okay, we'll get to it. I'm getting ahead of myself. If he's born in 1909, what music's going on in that? I mean, the early song factory, Tin Pan Alley's kind of starting. Ziegfeld Follies are in New York with Florenz Ziegfeld. We did a class on that. That's early musical theater review, right? Before they kind of get into stories and things on stage. But then we also have Strauss and Mahler still writing music. So classical music still being written. And then mostly the popular music, pop songs. Irving Berlin is maybe the biggest one. And we're going to do Irving Berlin next week. So, but mostly regarded as one of the greatest songwriters. Jerome Kern is writing songs too. We talk about Jerome Kern. So it's popular music, the year that he's born. We're about coming to swing music, right? And big band music in the 20s and 30s. So he's going to be influenced by that kind of music. Because he happens right before, he's going on right before bebop takes over. Bebop takes over in the 40s. And in the 50s. So he dies right when the advent of kind of bebop, and he's not going to play that game really. Technically he can do it, but he's more in the realm of Fats Waller, and we talked about Fats Waller. Let's bring up our timeline and we'll look. I mean, Fats Waller was probably his biggest influence. Some of their stuff, it sounds hard to, Fats also sang too. And we did that great song of I'm going to sit right down and write myself a letter. But their piano playing is very similar. They're taking stride piano, and they're coming up with different kind of chord colors in their right hand. They're not going too dissonant, but they're definitely it's not sounding like, it's extending what Scott Joplin did. I mean, Scott Joplin's way early. We talk about Scott Joplin with the rags and early ragtime music. And that's stride music, that's stride piano playing, where the chords are going to be in the left hand, and then the right hand is doing something different. This is going to be, stride piano is going to be what Bud Powell, Bill Evans, and Thelonious Monk are really going to be influenced by, but they're not really stride pianists in the sense, I mean, they can do that, but Bill Evans in the 50s and 60s is going to play more with colored harmonic progressions that have a different color tone. We did a few classes on Bill Evans, and so they can do that, but that's not their style of music, but they're influenced by Art Tatum. Thelonious Monk, we did a class on, very bebop piano player, and technically could do it, but I guess to recap, let's listen to Monk right now. So disjointed, right? A lot of humor, though. A lot of humor, but not stride piano. And then let's recap Bill Evans. More sensitive and emotional, right? Kind of more an intimate sound, and this is in the early 60s. And then, of course, probably we did a few classes on Bud Powell. So Bud Powell is going to be Bud Powell's favorite piano player, Art Tatum. He's going to take stride and then also incorporate bebop a little bit. So that's kind of just a little brief recap of who we've talked about and what he's going to sound like. But Art Tatum's born 1909, Toledo, Ohio, and mostly by the age of 4 lost most of his sight. They said that maybe this was something involving cataracts. That's what Ray Charles had, and then had a few eye operations, and then also supposedly was attacked in his early 20s, and that didn't help his sight at all. So he was mostly completely blind in his left eye and very limited vision in his right eye. So did that stop him? No, of course not. He probably had to work even harder. Exposed to church music. This is this is a big influence, church gospel music. And then just started playing piano at an early age. He was born to play. And born to interpret songs. We'll listen to a solo later at the end. Not much of a songwriter, but that's okay. He was composing melodies for his solos. But born to play because he had perfect pitch. He could play anything that he'd hear. That's just innate talent. That's something that you can't teach somebody. You're just born to do that. So moved to the School for the Blind in Columbus, Ohio, in the 20s. And studied classical piano in the classical tradition, where they didn't want you to play jazz. Jazz was considered, gypsy music, and this was not considered a legitimate art form. Maybe only until kind of recently was jazz considered legitimate, which is silly because jazz is highly complicated, right? As we know, it's not
it's not degenerate music, but that's kind of how history, people thought of it as degenerate, which, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of confusion about why, looking back, why things were considered bad or all this stuff. Mostly fear. Fear is why people are scared of new things coming up. So takes his stride piano playing, leaves, goes to New York. You got to go to New York, and this is where he gets a lot of fame playing clubs, and in Cleveland starts recording. And when he's playing in the 40s, this is when he's the most popular fame-wise and getting gigs as a piano player. And I mean, just immaculate technique and style on the keyboard, and just full of soul too. A big drinker, unfortunately, excessive drinker, like Bud Powell. Bill Evans was into heroin. I mean, it's very sad. Dies of uremia, which is kidney failure, in 1956. So he's before kind of blue comes out, cool jazz. He's right in the middle of when bebop's happening. And if we remember, what Bud Powell did was kind of translate Charlie Parker's solos onto the piano. So Charlie Parker was playing bebop. Bud Powell would say, well, this is bebop on the piano. And he was influenced by Art Tatum. I mean, how could you not? They sound very much alike. There's certain passages where I can't tell, at least with my little ears, what, if that's Art Tatum or if that's Bud Powell, late Art Tatum or early Bud Powell. So, I mean, what are we hearing? We're hearing, stride ragtime, right? In the right hand, there are influences of Debussy and Ravel, because there's some impressionism going on in the right hand. Think of that. How do you take Scott Joplin's left hand and then also include Ravel in the right hand, yet still swing? That's really, I don't know how he does that. Let's look at a solo. Let's see what we're talking about. One of his most famous solos is T for Two, song, great little tune, written in 1924, composed by Vincent Youmans, and Irving Caesar wrote the lyrics. And this was from an old Broadway show, No No Nanette, and it became part of a jazz standard where so many musicians covered this song. Take a listen to this solo. Again, it's not that it's so fast, because fast doesn't mean good, like we've talked about. There's so much ornamentation, coloring going on in the right hand, harmonies going on in the middle. He's kind of doing that starting and stopping that Bud Powell does, where it sounds like they're grooving, and then it's just, we looked at Bud Powell with Over the Rainbow, how he did that solo in Over the Rainbow that sounded really dark and then very melodic and very, and we talked about mental illness, because he suffered of mental illness, Bud Powell, and how there's happy moments and sad moments in his piano playing. How we have happy moments and sad moments in our brain, right, throughout the day, throughout our lives. It's a constant struggle to balance that. When we hear this solo, just don't think this is great because it's fast. Think of it just, what does this music mean to you? way, I mean, just beautiful, right? I mean, endless harmonic possibilities. He's using dissonance, but it doesn't sound like dissonant music. It's very melodic music, but he's going through chord changes so fast. I mean, faster than that we could even analyze. You know, we could spend hours and hours on each bar. So fast. And you hear early bebop music for sure. His chord voicing is different. You know, chord is how you know, C, E, G. That's, you know, that's a chord. He's going to voice it differently. And of course, many piano players do that. But the color is just so beautiful in his solos. And, you know, it goes back to there's no wrong notes in jazz. And Charlie Parker, Bud Powell, Art Tatum, they would agree with that. But it's how you resolve the note. So you can play any note you want, but how do you finish it? How do you resolve it? Can you do that? And that's what makes the music so powerful and satisfying, right? I mean, because if you just play random notes, that's random. But if you randomize it and play, you know, all these kind of colors and all this stuff, then you resolve it to something beautiful. And T for Two is just a beautiful solo. That's a little taste of Art Tatum. Brilliant pianist, just unbelievable how he took stride piano and early swing music and really did what Fats Waller did, where they just made the piano such a gorgeous instrument to solo in. I mean, it's sometimes nice just to hear it solo piano when they play a solo, and they have the whole universe in front of them with all the notes, and it's wonderful to see. And it's wonderful to listen to.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, so this guy's, like I said, I hope it's not too confusing. All these pianists, you know, it's more just to enjoy all this stuff. But to put it in context, you know, this guy's a little bit before Monk, who we did yesterday, Thelonious Monk, a little bit before, and Bud Powell's favorite piano player. And we talked about Bud Powell. We'll revisit him another time, but mostly, you know, don't get too bogged down by dates and all that stuff. Just more context and more enjoying it, and hopefully you enjoy it, especially that T for Two solo. How could you not have a smile on your face? Just somewhat of a smile of music makes me enjoy life, the moment of the solo, of just being present and hearing just gorgeous music, you know, just flowing out of this guy. He took stride piano, he and Fats Waller, you know, not together, but they were going on together, took stride piano and swing piano and made it the piano a solo instrument, where they were like, maybe we don't even need a full band. We got all rhythm, harmony, piano. We got the whole solo piano here. Something that Oscar Peterson would do later, that we'll talk about at some point. They made it like their solo instrument kind of have a full band just with their two hands. Pretty remarkable for the 40s, you know, because from the 40s you had a big band. We've talked about Glenn Miller, you know, you have all that. They were kind of like, I can do it all that with just my two arms. And they really could, because they could make it all swing so much with their two arms. And they got that from where? Who? Scott Joplin, right? Always goes back to Scott Joplin. Gosh, just amazing, Art Tatum. And to do it nearly blind, it's just, I don't even understand. Okay, so much fun. We're going to look at more pianists next week. Film scoring results for Beetlejuice tomorrow. Keeping busy, making it a great year so far. Miss you guys. Have a great rest of the day. See you tomorrow. Bye.